Hello, Bill Kenny here, MC for Startup Istanbul 2019. It's so exciting to have you participating in this year's Startup Istanbul as a jury member or a mentor, or maybe even both. So we want to take just a couple minutes and give you a quick overview of your responsibilities while you're at Startup Istanbul. So the first thing to talk about are the companies, the ventures that are coming. We've done some orientation with them, and there are a couple of things that we've asked of them so that they are better prepared for you. Number one is when you're giving them feedback, we've asked them not to make any comment, not to argue, not to justify what they're doing, not to give their point of view. We want them to solicit your feedback and bring that in. And obviously, they're going to get lots of different feedbacks. Really, the muscle that we want them to exercise is the ability to begin filtering feedback so that they can apply, sort of the best of the best feedback to their current situation and venture so that they do very well. So again, if you do have people who are beginning to justify or argue or give a different point of view, then it's totally fair to tell them, hey, let's use this time really wisely. You know what you know. What's going to benefit you is to get some of my perspective, and then you can decide whether it fits you or not. But you, without it, you may be limiting yourself. So that's really the idea. Again, feel free to stop people from justifying and so on as you're giving feedback. The second thing that we've asked, and this is something we've observed of many years of events like this, is that quite often when there are multiple team members, the non-speaking team member, in other words, the non-pitching team members, will quite often just sit there and observe. And we've asked them all to make sure they have paper and pen or pencil so that they can take notes. Not only are you going to tell them things that they should know and remember, but it's also incredibly discourteous to just sit there and not value your time. And so we want to make sure that they are both getting as much of that information recorded as possible, but also making sure that they are courteous. So again, don't hesitate to correct them if you see folks not doing that. And we'll do other reminders as well as we get closer. Obviously, they have a lot of things on their mind. So, and this is new for some. So we want to make sure that they get the most out of it. The other thing we should mention from a mentoring standpoint is we ask that you be as Socratic as possible. In other words, there's a temptation to tell people what to do when you're a mentor, and we would ask you to resist that. Instead, ask them questions that allow them to discover what to do or to question what they're doing in a way that is more appropriate, so they can discover the best path for their venture. And what we want to do is create independent, successful people, as opposed to dependent people who need some sources of wisdom other than developing the tools for themselves. So again, if you can, sort of ask questions, challenge them in a way that causes them to think about what they're doing in a more productive way, and obviously from that, hopefully they ask you a question like, my goodness, there's probably a reason you're asking me that question. Can you tell me more? And so we want to make sure that we get out some of, essentially, quite often, almost looking at mentor sessions, it's a lot like revealing an iceberg. What we see on the surface is very small, but the thoughts that you have related to any specific topic that you might suggest to them are probably much deeper than that. The next thing I want to make sure that we talk about is really the point of all this. And the ventures are going to be doing 2.5-minute pitches. And certainly as you have a session, hearing their 2.5-minute pitch, stopping them at 2.5 minutes, because that's going to be life on stage. And so we want to get them in that practice. And then, you can go through whatever questions you have. The point of all of this, the fundamental point that we want, isn't to win a pitch competition. That is the last thing on our mind. What we want is to help these companies build valuable businesses. Winning a pitch competition is a byproduct of building a valuable business. And it's if we focus on that results, building a valuable business, whether that's a valuable business because of its exit value or because of the cash flow it creates for its stakeholders and stockholders. That's really the outcome. So again, 2.5-minute pitches. I would suggest timing them and keeping them to that. Give your feedback. Make sure that you're coaching them and asking them questions that challenge their thinking. I mentioned Socratic, and kind of asking that question: have you thought about? Have you considered? Have you ever tried? Those types of things are really good. Now let's talk about the criteria, how the ventures are going to be assessed, both in the preliminary round and the final round. And there's two different stages to this process: a preliminary round that will select the finalists. That'll happen on Saturday, and then the finals, which will happen, the top 10 startups and the top 10 scale-ups, will happen on Monday. So there are 6 criteria. Number 1 is traction, and that generally, obviously the best is revenue, but also there may be other measures that give us good sense of traction, but revenue by far is the best. So traction, obviously paramount. What problem are they solving, and is it worth solving? In other words, is it something that is significant and real? Is the market large? Number 3, is it a good solution? Have they found a way that is productive to be able to solve that? Their team, is their team the best group to bring this to market? Have they had past successful businesses or exits, or do they have significant domain experience? And then kind of the final and kind of ultimate question is, would you invest? And so those 6 criteria are kind of how we want to not only coach and mentor, but how we'll be evaluating in the preliminaries on Saturday and in the finals. So traction, problem, large market, good solution, team, and then of course, would you invest? That's really it. I want to keep this short and sweet. We'll see you on Friday. Totally excited to see you. This is going to be a lot of fun. Get pumped up. You're going to see companies who have qualified from like 150 or 60 countries, about 160,000 applicants. It's just a massive number. And we're going to see the top 100 here in Istanbul. So thanks again. Enjoy your day. We'll talk to you all really soon.